meatloaf. I made this meatloaf on my cooking channel, Mark's Easy Kitchen. The video's not out yet, but I'm working on it. I'm just finishing it up. I'm a little slow getting it out there. I've been working on this video now for about 2 weeks. As you know, we've had some snow, so I had a few snow days where I couldn't get to working on it, and also have other things that I have to deal with. For instance, yesterday Linda and I had to drive to another town because she had to consult a specialist about something, which is it's all dealt with, not a big deal, but she wanted to talk to this specialist, so we had to drive like an hour and a half up island. We had lunch, walked around the park. By the time we got back, it was like, a 6-hour day. So, and then today I have to take my mom to an appointment. Then tomorrow I have a dentist appointment. So, I'm a busy guy, but I do my best to get to my kitchen videos, but they do take a lot of time. Now I have a couple shout-outs. Now, recently a viewer asked me to do a shout-out for her dog, Trixie. Her dog, Trixie, passed away. Or maybe, I'm not sure if it was a her, it may have been a him, but I forgot the person's name. So this viewer, asked me to do a shout out for the dog Trixie. So that's what I'm doing now, a big shout out to the dog Trixie, who passed away, but I forgot to write down the name of the viewer who asked me to do that. So anyways, this is for your dog. I'm sorry for your loss. Now, Joe from Gilroy, California. Big shout out to you too, Joe. Joe has had some health issues of his own. His wife had some health issues, and I think things are going good for them now. At least I hope they are. So all my best to you, Joe. I hope you and your wife are doing good. And like I said, it's health issues can be tough. They can be challenging, but you just hang in there, do your best, and and let me know how you're doing from time to time. I'd appreciate that. I really would. Okay. And a big shout out to all of you as well. I love hearing from you. I love your comments. You may have noticed that it's been taking me a while to get your comments lately, but like I said, we were snowed in there for a few days and I couldn't really go anywhere. So, and like I said, I do have other things that require my attention, so I always do my best to answer your comments. So the meatloaf, I made that on my cooking channel. This potato salad, I bought this from the deli this morning. It's not really very good. It's kind of on the tangy side. I tried to sort of bring it down a bit with some salt and pepper, which seems to be working. But this particular deli, it's funny. They have great Chinese food. They have all kinds of sliced meats. They have lots of different things, ribs, chicken, stuff like that. The cabbage rolls are, not too bad, but when it comes to something like potato salad, it's kind of more of a miss than a hit. Now, I recently did a video about aging. Today I'm going to talk more about my childhood. Things I did as a kid. We moved to Saskatoon when I was 5 years old, from the small town very close to the American border. It wasn't even a town, it was a hamlet. And I'm sure you've heard me say this 100 times, but it was just a tiny little hamlet. And we moved to the big city of Saskatoon, and it took me a while to make friends, but once I started making friends, I made lots of friends. But we lived on this crescent, and it wasn't quite developed yet when we first moved in. There were some houses, but there was still a lot of houses being built. Sidewalks were in, light standards were in, and there were some houses, well, quite a few, but still quite a few more to be built. And it was funny because the crescent, they cut it in half. So the numbers on this side, for instance, our house number was 2014 east. The other side was 2014 west, which is really silly. Eventually, within, I think, about a year or two, they would change it and make more sense out of it. And our house number became number 59. I just kind of went around the block like that, right? But I remember one time my dad ordered I think it was a load of top But anyways, the truck went to 2014 Grosvenor Crescent West on the other side of the block. There's like a back alley separating this side and this side. And the truck was backing into the driveway just about to dump the dirt, and the lady came flying out of the house. What are you doing? I didn't order that. So she got it just in time. But otherwise, she'd have got a truckload of topsoil in her driveway. Not much fun if you got to shovel it back in. So anyway, that was my neighborhood. There's a lot of kids on that block. And one of the favorite games we played in the summer was once I got to know people. Once I got to know people, we would play this game called War. And there'd be about maybe 20 of us, right? And we'd each have a flag. And we'd plant that flag, and we'd just kind of take over the whole block, the whole neighborhood, and that was like our playing ground. And during school, we played it almost every weekend. In the summer, we played it, like a lot, But it was so much fun because we would acquire more and more equipment. Like I had a transistor radio that I got from my sister or somebody. That was like a walkie-talkie, and stuff like that. And we had, this one kid, he had like old, you get tomato paste, those little cans, or tomato soup, and he took the labels off, and then he used those for hand grenades, and it was really funny. I still remember all that, but it was just a friendly game. But we'd run all over the neighborhood, with guns that we made out of sticks or plastic guns or whatever, right? Just having a lot of fun. So that was one game that we played a lot. Now another game was you throw a ball over the house. There'd be a group of people on one side, like the front yard, a group of people in the back yard, and you throw the ball, a rubber ball over top of the house. I could never really see the point of the game, but it was just fun throwing a ball over the house. And I think you'd say something like, innie, I over, and you'd throw that ball over, and it was just kind of seemed pointless, but for a little kid, just getting that ball over the house was a major accomplishment in itself, right? So, anyways, that was just one of the other games we played. And of course, as I got a bit older, we played Kick the Can. I love playing Kick the Can. Now in the summer, it would just, even at 10 o'clock, it was still light enough that you could see, like, real quite dusky, but it wasn't pitch dark at 10 o'clock even. But of course, I always had to be home by 9. But it was so much fun playing that game, especially when it got darker, because it was easier to play, people could hide a lot easier. But another thing we did, I remember doing this a lot when I was a kid. Was in the neighborhood where they're building all the new houses. When they got to the framing stage, it was so much fun to play on those houses because it was just the framework. It was like a giant set of monkey bars. And all us kids would be there playing, climbing up to the second floor. These houses, a lot of them, well, first of all, they all had dugout basements. Not like Vancouver Island where it's solid rock, but back there it's just, prairie. And you can dig a hole anywhere and just beautiful soft dirt. So all the houses had dugout basements. And I have to tell you, one time I was a little kid, the house across the back alley from us, we used to jump down to the basement. Just a dugout before they actually had the house built. They had some framing done and all that, but having those big holes in the neighborhood was quite common for at least a week or two, because they'd have to do that first, right, before they even put the foundation around. And I remember I got down into one of my buddy and I used to go down there, and this one time I went by myself and I couldn't get out, and I remember yelling, and finally my mom came. I don't know how she heard me, but I guess it was lunchtime. She was looking for me, so she grabbed my wrist and just pulled me up. And man, I was never so happy to see my mom in my whole life. Holy cow. It was weird. was so much fun. I remember this one guy, Bob, I can't remember his last name, but very, very nice guy. They were a nice family. Bob, what was his last name? It's on the tip of my tongue, but anyway, he was about 3 or 4 years older than me. Of course, I really looked up to him, so, if I was, 8, he was like, 12 or whatever. And I remember he fell and broke his arm. I remember his friends walking him home, and he's cradling his arm like that. And that was the second time he broke it. Well, maybe that was the first time, but he would break that same arm twice. I remember that. But I remember he worked at the grocery store, bagging groceries. That was his job. I saw him there one day, and I knew he played in a band. And I was talking to him. I was talking to him about his band, and he's just bagging groceries and talking to me. And I thought, well, I feel like I was talking to a rock star, and he was just such a nice guy. But speaking of bands, my friend Richard and I, who's my childhood friend, we were in the neighborhood, and I guess we were probably 7, 8, 9, whatever, probably about 7 or 8, and we could hear this sound. We thought, what is that? Also, we hear something, and we started walking towards it, and we looked through the fence, and we see this band playing in the backyard, and it was this little girl lived across the alley. It was her brother, Doug. He was older. Once again, just, probably a few years older than us, maybe. I guess he was a teenager, obviously. Yeah, he was a teenager. And he had a band called the Warlocks. And they actually sounded really good, And I remember we were in the backyard watching them. I never heard a live rock band before. That was my first time. I saw them on TV, and I remember Rich and I saying, oh, these guys are better than the Beatles, Because, never hearing that sound for real, seeing, the drummer and all the amplifiers, and, just never actually heard a rock band before. It was just fantastic. And Doug, he was a nice guy, too. His brother, Don, was an older guy. He was a bit of a jerk. He became the mayor of Saskatoon for many years, but didn't care much for him. He used to throw rocks at me. But Debbie, the little sister, she was my age. Her and I were playmates. She was a lot of fun. But it was actually their basement before they moved in, had their house built, that I got stuck in and had to have my mom bail me out. Of course, we rode a lot of bikes, and we rode our bikes everywhere. Now in Saskatoon, you pretty much put your bike in the basement of the garage around October. You never saw it again until April. But once that bike came out, oh man, there was nothing like it. Just riding around the neighborhood. No helmets. No. When I say no helmets, I'm not poo-pooing anybody for wearing a helmet today. Wearing a helmet today is smart. When I see a little kid riding a bike without a helmet, I cringe, I really do. So, we were learning back then. No, we didn't wear helmets back then, but they weren't required, and, nobody seemed to even really think about it. And a perfect example of what we should have was after we moved out here to the island. My little sister she was 7 or 8 when we moved. She was 7 when we moved here, and this was either that first summer, well, anyway, she would have been 7 or 8, probably about 8. And we had visitors from back east. They were relatives of my dad, and they had a couple of young kids, very rambunctious, and they were, the 3 of them, the 2 boys and Cardine, were riding down this big steep hill, because there's a lot of hills around here. It's very hilly, and Cardine was never that comfortable on her bike going fast, and they're going down this hill, and she wiped out. Now, we didn't see her wipe out, but But of course, we made a full recovery. And of all the people in our family, she got the good looks, so it didn't affect her looks any. But if she'd been wearing a helmet, it would have been a lot better because she really could have killed herself, at that rate of speed. And she was never very sure of herself on a bicycle. But anyways, a lot of things we did back then, we never wore seatbelts. My dad's brand new 1968 Ford Galaxy, they had seatbelts and shoulder straps. Those shoulder straps were up on there. You had to, that had like a Velcro thing or something like that. Never once ever used them. Not once. Never did. Now, of course, the swimming pool was something else that we did. I've been on Vancouver Island now for 50 years. The amount of times I've swam in a swimming pool since I moved here, I could easily count on both hands and still have a couple of fingers left over. In Saskatoon, that's all we had was swimming pools. Saskatoon had a lot of swimming pools, like outdoor pools. And we used to go to the one swimming pool. It was the George Ward swimming pool, named after a guy named George Ward. And it was funny because it had the swimming pool, then it had a great big hill, man-made hill. And in the winter, that was perfect for tobogganing. Oh man, we would spend hours and hours, weeks. That's how we spent our winters, tobogganing down that hill. My friend Richard learned how to ski going down that hill. But in the summer, it was just a place to sit, and why they had a hill there, I'm not sure, but I guess it was for that purpose. It was good for tobogganing in the winter and whatever. And of course, it was all chain link fence, but around the back, behind the hill, it was an easy way to sneak in. We did all times climb over the fence, jump in, and you're there. And it used to be kind of weird because I'm in Eland, and you're like, wow, I'm in here illegally, but it was not a big deal. I think we got tossed a few times because they'd catch us, but, we did that so many times. But, I used to have a season's ticket, and I think I got something like a season's pass, something like 100 swims in the summer. I remember that just went so fast, but it was such a cool place to go. Like, we just practically lived at the swimming pool, and I remember it was just so much fun going there. But unfortunately, it was so crowded that they would have an adult swim, then a kid swim, a men's swim, a ladies swim, a boys swim, and a girls swim, and each one was probably, I guess, 15 or 20 minutes. So you had to really squeeze your time in. And a lot of times you go in there and there's be so many bodies in there, right? Now, it wasn't like that all the time, mostly just on the weekends. But that's where I learned to swim. We took swimming lessons in school. And this is during the winters, of course, I went to this indoor pool. I don't have to remember learning to tread water there. Because to me, personally speaking, my idea of learning to swim is learning how to tread water. That's the most important thing. Whether you can actually swim is one thing, but when I think of swimming, I actually think of treading water. If you can't tread water, you're pretty much done. Unless you can float for a long time, which you can, I guess. But anyways, I remember we were at the swimming pool, and I'd always kind of be in the kiddie end because I couldn't tread water, but I would just practice. And this one day I noticed that they had numbers. The higher the number, the lower it was. Like if you had the number 1, that was the deep section. Number 3 was still kind of deep, but the kiddie section were the higher numbers. And I remember I was around the 3 or 4, and I couldn't touch bottom. And my friend was standing on the side of the pool and says, "Mark, look what you're doing." I said, "Yeah, I know," because I was treading water. diving board and a low diving board. I remember this like it was yesterday. My friends would always, they'd go off the diving board, and Rich was one of these guys. He was a few months younger than me, but he was always kind of ahead of me and everything, you know. He was a bit more gutsier than I was. He'd been going off the diving board now for a while, so I wanted to do it, and so everyone kept saying, "Well, you can do it, Mark." And I said, "Okay, but just don't pressure me, right?" And I remember this like yesterday. I was walking through the shower thinking, you know, I'm gonna do this, and I walked, I waited my turn. There's always a lineup, and I waited my turn, and I climbed up there, and this was the first time I was ever on the diving board in that deep end. And I ran, I just took a big jump, and the way I went, did like a, sort of like a cannonball type thing, made a big splash, came up. All was good. I mean, they had lifeguards on duty and everything, but, and then the high diving board, and same thing, you just jump from a higher height, you know, no big deal. I find the older I get, the less gutsier I am. When we were in Mexico, Linda and I, last year, a year ago, we were in Mexico, and we went to this, what's the name of it? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. It's like a cave type thing, and the water's very warm. Oh my goodness, I can't remember. Anyways, old guy here, I forgot the name of it, but anyways, we went there, and of course there's lots of people there, and they have these different levels where you could jump off. And Linda said, "Are you going?" I said, "Well, I'm not ready." It wasn't that that I was afraid to. I just didn't want to for fear, well, you know, what if I, you know, break something, you know, I'm on holidays in Mexico, you know, I was good just swimming around. But there was a time I'd have been in there like a dirty shirt, you know. But the swimming pool is a place where we spent a lot of time. A lot of time. And as we got older, teenagers, we still went there, hung out. All our friends. I remember they had a concession, and I always bought popcorn twists. I had some of my aging videos eating popcorn twists and cheeses, but the popcorn twists were the best deal because you get a big bag for 10 cents. To me, that was the best deal going. So that's how I spent my 10 cents. And then, like I said, the winter, spent a lot of time tobogganing in the winter. We go up and down that hill, and then sometimes we go down to the down to the river bank. And they have this big hill that go down the river bank. They land on the river, which is frozen over, and that's only when it was safe to do that. And the ice had to be real thick before you did that, because that was a very dangerous river. It flowed very quick, but that was a lot of fun. But the most fun tobogganing, and I only did this maybe a dozen times. You have to go out to the country, and there'd be these hilly areas, these rolling hills, and you go down. There'd be lots of people there. You go down the hill, and there's not a tree in sight. Just go and go and go, and there'd be people down at the bottom of skidoos, and you'd hook your toboggan up and they'd pull you back up the hill. I mean, it was just so much fun. I loved that. I didn't care how cold it was. I'd be out there all day. I just loved it. It was just a blast. Nice way to spend the winter. And of course, skating. You know, hanging around the hockey rink skating. I remember learning to skate. The first pair of skates I got, they had bright yellow laces. They're brown skates. I think they were Cooper or something like that. CCM, I think. Yeah. Anyways, learning to skate. I remember I was like a cow on ice at first. I'd get up there just, you know, wobbling or whatever. And I just kind of go along. never skated good enough to play hockey, but skating was fun. Another thing, the ice rinks were just to hang out in the winter. They were a place to hang out. You know, a lot of fun just being there. But we play a game called Broom Ball. That was a lot of fun too. That was really a lot of fun. Played a lot of that. Played that in high school and whatever. And basically just whack a ball with a broom, like sort of like a curling style broom. And curling. That's a big game in Canada. A lot of curling. Those granite rocks, man, they're heavy. And you know, it's all emotion and the sliding and when to let it go, and it's harder than it looks. It was interesting. Now also, when I was a kid, there were a lot of pinball machines, you know. People say nowadays, well, when I was a kid, I was always outside. I wasn't gaming and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's because it was a whole different era. It was a whole different time. There wasn't any gaming aside from pinball machines and stuff like that. I mean, and believe me, you put a pinball machine in front of almost any kid back then, and they wouldn't see the light of day either. There used to be arcades. You'd go to the arcades and hang around. Almost every store or grocery store had pinball machines at the back. My parents had a corner store. They had 2 pinball machines at the back of the store that my dad owned. We spent a lot of time playing with those. A lot of time. I love pinball. That's a great game. I'll tell you, if I win the lottery, I'll have a room in my house with about 10 different machines. It's just so much fun, like the sound of it, you know, all the bells and the lights, the way they light up. It's so cool. And of course the playgrounds themselves, the slides, the merry-go-round, the monkey bars, you know. We used to have these things called, they're like a rec center, they're called recreational units. You know, they had lots of those all throughout the town. These units that always have, every year they'd have a couple of people that would either get paid or volunteer, and they were always a bit older. I mean, they were like young people, like 18, 19, 20 years old, whatever. And they were I guess they were called the supervisors, if I remember correctly, but they were always really cool, right? They were always just a lot of fun. I had a great childhood. I really did. I was in Cub Scouts. And we used to go on the camping trips. It was fun. The only thing I didn't like was sometimes, I mean, we got to do a lot of cool things, but sometimes there was too much organization, not enough free time, you know. But yeah, I mean, we did like some minor zip lining, and we did some, you know, lots of different hikes and different things we saw and did, you know. It was a lot of fun. You know, went on, like I said, a few camping trips or whatever. You know, canoeing and stuff, and made a lot of friends. And of course I eventually would play in a band when I was a little kid. You know, our first paid gig was $7. You know, that was chicken feet then, but it was a paid gig, right? So we didn't care. You know, we knew $7 between, I think, 5 guys. It was ridiculous, but still, it was a paid gig. And we played song. I played drums. Richard sang and played guitar. Barry played guitar, and Jim played guitar, and his brother played bass. And Jim and Bob, they were brothers. They had a dad who was self-employed, had a very successful business, like a locksmith, precision instruments type business. He did very well. new Cadillac every 2 years, but he indulged his kids. If they wanted, guitars, amplifiers, they got it. No questions asked. His dad even bought me some cymbals and a hi-hat for my drum kit and stuff like that, right? Wow. But yeah, we played lots of schools. We played those recreational units, play outside, a lot of fun. I got no complaints about my childhood at all. I mentioned my other video that we used to have lots of house parties when my parents went away. But we would do stuff when we were little, like experiment with cigarettes. I know, like Richard's mom smoked, so he'd steal one of her cigarettes and would sit there behind the garbage cans on the backyard, and if we accidentally inhaled some, we'd be sick for about 3 days, but we just, like that, and, that sort of thing. And then, of course, we would go to the local grocery store. It was actually a confectionery, so all kinds of candy and stuff, and we'd shoplift sometimes. There was no cameras back then at all, right? I remember, like sometimes you go in there to buy a fudge, you go revel, you reach in there, you'd be looking around, and you take one and shove it up your sleeve, right? And of course, in the wintertime, when you got a big parka on, it's easy to do that. I know, I can see right now your image of me is completely shattered, right? I know. And you thought I was so wholesome? I got it past, And Richard, there was a drugstore, the candy store type thing, and then the grocery store. And Richard went in one day, and he got caught stealing from the drugstore. He stole a couple of those big chocolate bars. And he had them underneath his shirt, and he walked out. And he came out, and all of a sudden this man walked out behind him. He says, "What do you got underneath your shirt?" And Richard goes, "Oh, just these." Just these. Pulls up these great big chocolate bars. It was so funny. But my paper route kept me out of trouble too. But as a kid, the whole neighborhood was like our playground, We got to know so many of the neighborhood kids, and so much fun. We'd meet at the local park or something and just, do stuff and hang out and whatever. Play games. It was just a lot of fun. This meatloaf is very good. It turned out very well. It's Linda's recipe. She let me use her recipe. We used to make meatloaf at work a lot, and it was very good. Nothing wrong with it. Basically the same thing. We'd always make it on in shallow pans. Actually, you can make it on a baking sheet if you want to like spread it out and just cut a square and scoop out a square. We used to do that. But and of course, years ago I'd make it in a loaf pan, and always make sure it's in a casserole dish, and that works great. No problem. But her recipe is very basic, but it's very good. So I used her recipe, and it worked out I'm still working on one right now called Old School Audio. Where I'm going to be talking about all my, what I used to bang my head to, kind of equipment I had back then. All the way back to my, my first transistor radio with a little earphone, that sort of thing. So, yeah, I'm working on that. But, once I get this meatloaf thing out of the way, I can start moving back to, more ASMR and all that. Because that's why that's another reason I've been so busy, because I do ASMR and my cooking videos kind of at the same time sometimes. I mean, I was working on my meatloaf video this morning, as a matter of fact. And the only reason I have this meatloaf here is because I just finished recording the ending part of it, where I actually eat it and taste it. It worked out good that way, so I'm getting quite full here. That really expanded my stomach. Oh, wow. Ooh, that was delicious. Yeah. And another thing, my videos, I also did a short video I did when I made my corn chip candy bar. I recorded that for my kitchen video, Mark's Easy Kitchen, but then I also recorded it for a couple of shorts. And I made two shorts. I made an ASMR short, and I made just a regular short. So I had a lot going on there too. And what takes a long time is the editing. The editing takes a long time. And I'm kind of picky. A lot of times I'll re-record something because I wasn't happy with it. And one time I was doing something and the dialogue was perfect. I went all through the dialogue of my cooking video and I realized my mic wasn't plugged in. Stuff like that, And another one, I was doing it, and when I look back, my cook's jacket, one of the buttons was undone. That drove me crazy, so I had to redo it. Oh well, maybe I'm too much of a perfectionist, I'm not sure, but anyway. Well, that was delicious meatloaf. I'll make sure I include the recipe. I always do that anyway. I put the recipe in there. All the snow is melting right now. It's been raining now for a few days. The ditches, lots of water in the ditches. A lot of the sewer drains are backed up, but the snow is mostly gone now. When we drove up Island yesterday, there were some areas, more central Island, that were really loaded with snow, and then others didn't have any at all. I don't know if you can tell, but I've lost a few pounds. I'm working on it. Oh, that's good water. I haven't been drinking too much pop lately. I still drink bubbly at home. The other day, my buddy John, he wanted to go. We always go out about every 3 weeks. We have the big lasagna, the big one. They have two sizes: the regular, normal, what normal people eat, and they have the big one with 2 pieces of garlic toast, and it's huge, it's cheesy, and we'd always have that, and sometimes apple pie with ice cream. And I'd walk out of there just holding my belly, right? But the other day he phoned me up and I was working on my meatloaf video, and he phoned me up and he said, I'd like to have your advice on something. I just started working my video, and I thought maybe I can just phone him. We can talk over the phone. I thought, John's my best friend. If he wants to ask my advice, the least I can do is get off my ass. And so I phoned back and I said, okay, I can meet you at noon. This is about 10:30. So he said, great. So he picked me up, and we're driving along. And about 3 or 4 days earlier, I sent him a listing about a townhouse that came up, and it was a great deal. It was like $299,000. it's a rarity to find anything under 300,000. That's decent. I mean, some of the stuff, the real estate's really expensive up here. So I sent him this listing. I said, by the way, did you ever, investigate that listing I sent you? He goes, that's what I want to talk to you about. He said, I bought it. I said, oh, good. He says, when I asked for your advice, that was just a ruse to get you out of the house. So we went to the restaurant and we had lunch. I had a salad, and he had a pizza instead. But yeah, I'd seen lots of pictures of his townhome online. It's really a nice little townhome, little 2-bedroom. And we drove by and I saw the outside. And I had looked at one of those many years ago. It's in a 55 plus neighborhood. And it's funny because I just turned 54, so I couldn't have bought there anyway, but they were really nice. So I'm very happy for him. John's my best friend, my main man, so I'm so happy for him that he's picked up the pieces from his divorce, because a couple of years ago he was not doing very well mentally. He was pretty down, and I was worried about him, but he's bounced back. Anyways, my friends, I wish you nothing but the best. I know some of you have, health issues, and, we all have mental health issues. We all have physical issues, and I hope you're doing well. And, if there's anything